From the Eyewitness News Center, Channel 4 presents Jacksonville's #1 news, Eyewitness News.
Hello, everybody. I'm Tom Wills.
How do you start the story
Like everyone's job, there are highs and lows.
of a man who's reported
This is the New York Port Authority bus terminal, one of the largest bus stations in the world.
tens of thousands of news stories?
Biggest commercial fraud case in the city's history.
I guess we start where it all began. What year was it?
1975.
Hans Tansler was mayor of Jacksonville and Gerald Ford was president.
Jimmy Carter was going to run for president. In fact, I interviewed Jimmy Carter here at the old Thunderbird Hotel.
Where's that at?
It's gone. It used to be on University Boulevard.
And a young reporter decided to move south.
Well, I worked at WTOP in Washington, which was owned by the Washington Post, the same company that owns WJXT.
To deliver the news
Mostly I was a radio newsman.
on TV in a somewhat unknown city to him in Florida.
How did you wind up in Jacksonville?
And I knew the company owned 2 television stations in Florida, and I definitely heard him not say Miami. So it must have been the other Florida television station he was talking about.
But as Tom Wills' time in his new home started,
We weren't as aware of what the viewers wanted to see as we are now.
he delivered history.
And so basically we covered City Hall, we covered the authorities, we covered the school board, and we covered the courts. And that was local news.
Night after night
Now understand, we were doing 2 half hours a day.
after night in a much different era.
Hard to imagine, isn't it? 2 half-hour newscasts a day.
To the viewers of Jacksonville, under the guide of legendary WJXT anchor Bill Grove.
Did you read off the teleprompter then, or were you a paper, or what was it back then?
We didn't have a teleprompter at first because Bill didn't like the teleprompter. And if Bill didn't have a teleprompter, nobody had a teleprompter. So I basically memorized the scripts.
One of the stories most linked to the man who's a throwback to Murrow and Cronkite.
Thursday, October 20th. A twin-engine Convair 240 with the name Leonard Skinner painted on the side is 580 miles out of Greenville, South Carolina, bound for Baton Rouge.
Is what happened in October of 1977.
But for the rest of us who saw the remains of Leonard Skinner's Convair 240, the sight is unforgettable. You can't even realize, seeing one of these things on television, exactly what a crash of this magnitude looks like. Up there, sitting against the tree, is a piece of an airplane wing, torn away from the rest of the airplane.
When Tom Wills began reporting on North Florida's most famous music act.
All I saw was treetops. I looked out my windows in the middle of the airplane on the right wing. I tried to get close to the back of the airplane as possible.
And then a few years later,
One good show. I remember the first time I met Tom.
Tom Wills got a partner.
And he came to me and he introduced himself and he asked for my help.
Enter Deborah Gianolis, who was actually working for a competing news station at the time.
He had humility, he showed respect, and he was very collegial. I never knew he'd become one of my best friends.
His co-anchor on the news desk.
Eyewitness News with Tom and Deborah, tonight at 11.
When we said yes, I get a phone call from Tom Wills, welcoming me, telling me how excited he was to work with me, and that just was the beginning of a great relationship.
Alongside Sam Kavaris and George Winterling for an unprecedented quarter century.
The Tom I've known for 20 years has always been the same. I'm assuming in the 1980s it was the same as well.
I mean, Tom is the definition of a good man. Regardless of the professional skills and his amazing ability as a friend, he's just a really good person.
I'm lucky. Every day I work with the best journalists in the country, and every night I report what's happening to the most demanding news viewers.
Along the way, Tom and Deb raised their families.
And you know what? I wouldn't trade a single minute of it.
And they put their lives on display.
Hi, I'm Tom Wills. If you're like me, you just can't spend enough time with your kids.
You know, we would share when we were having struggles with our kids, and it was wonderful to have someone that you could trust. You could tell him anything. I mean, the man is a lockbox. He would never reveal anything you had to say, and so he would know.
Which is ironic because he gets paid to tell people stories.
That's right.
Then in 2004, when Deb left Channel 4, a new partner arrived on the 6 o'clock news.
I mean, it was chemistry right from the start.
Mary Bear spent nearly 2 decades on the 6, anchoring with Tom.
You know, he had just this wealth of knowledge, but beyond that, this depth of faith and just incredible ethical standards, you know, the whole journalism with a capital J.
In our chat, we talked as much about Tom the news anchor as we did Tom the man.
When you get to know him, he is the kindest person I've ever met. He's one of the most generous people you'll ever meet.
One of the stories that is enshrined in the memory of Channel 4, when Hurricane Matthew threatened Northeast Florida.
I want to talk to you people for just a minute. Not as Tom the newsman. We've been together for 40 years, you and I.
A photo of that moment was gifted to Mary when she retired in 2023.
The picture you have here of you and Tom during Hurricane Matthew, that was such a iconic moment for Channel 4, was it not?
Gripping moment.
It was the moment when Tom dropped any guise of being a man on the news and spoke directly to his city.
It's time to take precautions.
That was the moment in the storm where I didn't know that Tom was going to go there. He just kind of stops the whole thing. You know, it says, you'll have to forgive me, I don't know the exact words, but it was like, folks, we got to get it together, you know, pay attention because this one could be the one, right?
Yeah.
And so, and then he tears up and I mean, he's my friend, he's my brother, he's so much to me. I just instinctively touched his arm and we both just thought, it was just a powerful moment.
Beyond the storms, there was one story.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom Wills reporting live from Chicago, where the NFL owners are just about to begin their climactic meeting.
A very big story Tom was there for every step of the way.
You talk about a big story. If I were a book writer, which I'm not, I'd go all the way back to Colt Fever and Jake Godbold and Mike Tolbert with the goofy idea of bringing a crowd into the old Gator Bowl to watch Irsay land in the Channel 4 helicopter in the middle of the field so that people could shout, "We want the Colts."
But Jacksonville did not get the Colts. Instead, they got the teal and black you know today. And Channel 4 was at the center of that whole process.
Sam Kavaris and I are standing in a Chicago hotel when Tagliabue comes out and announces the franchise is going to Jacksonville.
Jacksonville as the 30th NFL club.
And I fly back with Wayne Weaver on his private plane to Jacksonville Airport, and there's a crowd standing there. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it.
Yeah.
There's a crowd there to greet him. They put an NFL franchise in Jacksonville? You talk about big stories, Scott?
But it's been so much more than the Jaguars, like when Channel 4 was instrumental in getting rid of tolls.
Good evening, everyone. For Jacksonville, it could be a turning point. To hear one side tell it, a vote for the sales tax on Tuesday will reduce pollution, relieve congestion, and increase the quality of life here. The other side says we have more than enough taxes already. Tolls are no fun, they say, but a better alternative than a new tax.
There was also the death of a monster.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Wills, along with Rob Sweeting. 12 hours ago, Theodore Bundy's twisted and tragic life ended at Florida State Prison. His cross-country killing spree left at least 20 victims in 6 states, possibly as many as 36.
For the city, Tom's voice led them through so much history.
Tom has been, I think, a mentor to all of us.
Well, I was going to say they're losing history, but I mean, they're not. I mean, he's going to be a historic figure.
Both Mayor Donna Deegan and former Mayor Lenny Curry know Tom's impact on the city.
He has really invested so much into people in this community, and I really cannot imagine turning on the television and not seeing him. But God love him. I mean, he is a tremendous human being, and that's a great loss for you guys and for Jacksonville in terms of having him on the air.
What he's done for this city, it's going to be a big loss, but I think that those that come behind him can learn from what it's like to, he covered multiple administrations, he covered so much in the city long before I was even around, so it's a big loss.
And now Tom moves on to another story.
What will you
The
miss?
people.
The people.
Yeah, the people. The coworkers I've had that I'm still very close friends with.
His own.
And, you know, people ask, you know, why now? It's time. I've been working since I was 14.
And as he spends more time with his grandchildren, he will remember his 49 years as Jacksonville's newsman.
And people would recognize me out on the street and they would say, "There's the newsman." And so I adopted that. I'm their newsman, and it has never changed. Whether I became the face of the TV station or whether I was just another anchor in the line of anchors, I've always thought of myself as their newsman. I am of service to the viewers.
And now Tom Wills will serve a new audience full time, his family. Scott Johnson, Channel 4, the local station.